Welcome, everyone from everywhere all the time. I know Australia's in the house. Anyone from Europe? Who's in? Oh, Lori's in Chicago. Anyone else in the Chicago area?
So yeah, from Sweden. Hello, everybody.
Hey,
Sweden, yay.
Sweden is in the house. That's awesome. Okay, cool. So I guess
I'm in
Kirsten's
Northeast New Jersey.
New Jersey.
New
Jersey. All right, good. Kirsten, you win the furthest away
Woo.
person prize. No, that's anything other than
A
an
warm glow.
acknowledgement, but there you go. All right. Anyway, any celebrities in the house? Any Oscar winners? No? Okay. User group managers, besides Sarah. Sarah, do you want to make an announcement about the next Adobe meeting?
Yeah, let's see. I should know this off the top of my head, but I have to go to it. Hold on. And the next one is going to be about the topic is beefing up your creative resume. And so we're going to have Mandy Miner, and it's going to be April 26th. So if you can make it, head over to TampaAdobeUserGroup.com. Check that out.
All spelled out, TampaAdobeUserGroup.com.
Sure, I'll put it into the chat.
There
for
you go.
everyone,
Good idea.
And that way they can just check it out. Thank you for letting me promote that. That was great.
No, for sure. Any other user groups in the house? No? Okay. All right. Any rep from our various sponsors? Okay, then. Mr. Bell.
Well, we're going to do a fresh take on interactivity today. Lori, you said
I
it's
said it,
Rulin,
didn't
right?
I? Rulin.
Right. See, I do have it right. Yeah.
You did.
Is our presenter all the way from Chicago, Illinois. And let's see, our hosts are me, Alan, and this is our advisory board. I'm not going to read it all. And it's brought to you by the generous support of Adobe Creative Pro, DTP Tools, Insider Software, O'Reilly Media, Rocky Nook, and people like you. And if you want to reach us, this is how you can reach us. The three major social media platforms. And Alan, you want to tell us about today's presentation?
Today's presentation is a fresh take on interactivity and InDesign with Lori Rulin, who is a favorite presenter of mine. So totally wonderfully happy to see her here. Let me see. I got all kinds of stuff in the way of what I'm trying to read. There we go. Okay. We've done interactivity before, but we had a presentation from Justin Putney, a couple of different presentations on In5, but everybody who presents covers it differently. We all have different viewpoints on how we do things with InDesign. So we're just delighted to have Lori with us today because he does it really well. Mr. Bell, tell us about the raffle.
Well, the raffle, we have these prizes, and I'm putting a link in the chat pod so that you can find out about those prizes and be prepared to choose one if your name is called. So that will allow the raffles to proceed quickly. And I just put that in the chat pod. So I'll stop the share. And Alan, you want to tell us about Lori?
Lori Rulin is an Adobe certified instructor in both InDesign and Illustrator, and a freelance graphic designer, creating brochures, catalogs, menus, logos, infographics, and digital documents for a variety of clients. From her diverse graphic design freelance work, Lori brings a wealth of real-world knowledge into her training. She's taught InDesign, Illustrator, and Photoshop at a number of training centers in Chicago for over 20 years, trains and consults for many corporations, SMPS Chicago, for example, and has presented at Adobe user groups around the country. She has been a speaker at Creative Pro Week, a favorite speaker at Creative Pro Week for the last 6 years. Lori, take it away.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome. I see a couple familiar faces here. I'm excited to talk to you guys about my take on interactivity with InDesign. So let me go ahead here and share my screen. And the first thing I'm going to say so that you can get this downloaded is I have a PDF that, take a look in the chat pod. It's on Dropbox, so you can look for the Dropbox link that they're going to pop on here in a minute. This is a 17-page, I know I'm an overachiever, but 17-page document of step-by-step of what I'm going to be talking about today. I talk quickly. I like to get a lot of information out there to kind of show you what can be done, but I don't want you to sit there and have to take notes and rewatch things. So I do have a step-by-step guide here that you can download. So go ahead and get that started if you want to, and print it or just take a look at it. So, okay. So thank you again for the introduction and for the invitation. Yeah, I've been here teaching and all this since the mid-90s. I started out with Quark Express, like I know a lot of you guys did. I've also taught InDesign for Quark users. That was a very fun class to talk to Quark users that were switching over to InDesign. So I've been teaching it for quite a few years. So my goal here for the talk today is I want to do some work with InDesign, showing you how to create animations, buttons, hyperlinks, multi-state objects, and different things that you can do to make your animated documents look a little bit cooler. So I'm also going to talk about the 3 main ways that you can export your documents out. So I'm going to get started right away here. And the first thing, PDF. I'm not going to talk too much about PDF. I'm just going to basically say that PDF, you guys are seeing my screen, right? I'm just checking that because I don't.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I don't see my typical green little bar around here that I see it. Okay. So that when you're working with a PDF, as a previous commenter had said, you can't do any of the fun stuff in your PDF. You cannot include animations. You cannot include multi-state objects. No movement can you add into this PDF. We all know how to export it. We all know the pros and cons about this. So I'm going to move on from PDF. Another way that we can get an interactive document out of InDesign is publish online. I see that the document that is going around with all of the information for the raffles, it's a publish online document. So a lot of us have used this. So the cool thing about publish online is that you can build an InDesign file with all your interactivity, your videos, your hyperlinks, and you can export it with publish online. And the problem, there's pros and cons, but let me go through a couple of the pros. It is single click publishing. It is automatically available. It's hosted on Adobe servers, so it's automatically available. There's no extra work that you have to do. Anybody can access it. And the key thing here is that all animations, buttons, hyperlinks, multi-state objects, videos, all those things are going to play successfully. And you've got some access to dashboard links. There's no extra monthly fees. So it's really, really nice in that way. But the con is the same as the pro. The file is hosted right on Adobe servers. And here's an example of a link. I'm just going to copy this and pop this into a new tab here. And you'll see here that this is a great link. And this is actually an example of some of the things that we're going to work on tonight. But look at this link. Can you remember that? Can you send that to somebody else? Could you find this ever again without having to go back and actually click on a link? You can't. So that's one of the biggest problems that I find with Adobe's Publish Online is that it's hosted by Adobe, and I'm giving somebody an indd.adobe.com website to go to away from my website. Okay. So Publish Online is great. It's going to do a lot of the same things that the next one can do, but I just don't like that link. Whoops, I clicked on that one. Coming back. Okay. So the third way that I'm going to show how to export some of the interactivity that I'm going to show you how to make, and then we'll export it at the end. The third way is in5 from Ajar Productions. Now, I know that you have had some demonstrations from Justin and some other people that have worked with in5, and it's a fabulous program. My pros and cons here, let me just go through these with in5, is one of the pros is also a con, but you host it on your own site. You will choose the location of your website, and it's easy to make the folder exactly the name that you want, and you can easily remember the link, send it to other people. Anybody can access the HTML, the index.html. They can view it in a browser or tablet, and there's no extra hosting fees like you have on a site like Issue or another one of those PDF hosting sites. The other cool thing about in5 is that all the animations, buttons, hyperlinks, everything that you're going to see me demonstrate tonight will work in that export. With in5, you can create any number of exports. There's no limit, and you have a bunch of different types of programs that you can do that you can pay for. Now, the cons of Adobe or of Ajar Productions in5 is you must purchase and install the plugin as an add-on to InDesign, and there is definitely an extra cost for ownership. It's above and beyond your Creative Cloud, but you're not going to pay per job or per export or per file. You would have it for, say, the month or for the year, and you can export as many documents as you want to through in5. You do need to upload and host it on your own website. So there's currently no hosting available through in5 like you have with Publish Online. The other problem with in5 is that there is a learning curve, and you have to understand not only how to create the animations and the buttons that I'm going to show you just in a few seconds here, but you also have to understand how to export it out of in5 and upload it up to your hosting. So at the very end of my talk here, I'm going to actually take a file that we create here and show you all those steps to get it up onto your website. Because I found that was the biggest disconnect for me. I said, okay, this is great. in5 is fantastic. I see how you export it. I see that file, but how do I get it up to my website? So I'm going to try to go through that whole thing with you. And, I've logged into my own website, and I'm going to make a folder and put it up there. Okay. So that was just a very quick overview of the 3 different ways that you can get this out of InDesign. Now I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to start jumping into InDesign and how you're going to create some of the animations, the buttons, and things that we're going to use to make our documents look cool and make them digital. All right, so I'm going to move this out of the way. But the first thing I'm going to set up here is I'm going to make a digital workspace. So you've got the directions here. So I'll just move that out. And let me open up just I think I'll just do a quick new file here. And the first thing is the workspace. So just like with everything, you need a new tool set, or you need to have your tools ready to go. Back in the day, we always used to use our X-Acto knives and our T-squares. We had those tools. Now we're switching over to the digital tools. Same thing with InDesign. You may be used to working with a workspace, for example, the advanced workspace, where you have your layers, your paragraph styles, and all these panels over here. There is already ready for you in InDesign a digital publishing workspace. So you're going to just click on this digital publishing workspace, and that's going to switch everything over. And I'm going to show you a couple things that I do with my custom workspace that I think you'll like. One of the things that I do is I take my Pages panel and I tuck it all the way over to the left side of my screen. Now, I saw this about, 15 years ago. Somebody had their Pages panel over there, and I added mine over to the left, and I literally haven't turned away since. So what I do is I turn on my Pages panel, I grab it and I push it all the way over here to the left side of the page. And then I make it as small as I possibly can. Now, what I'm doing here is able to go from page to page very quickly without having to open up another panel. So that's the first thing that I do with my digital workspace. The other thing that I'll do is I'll drag away a few of these panels, but there's one that is really missing. And that one that is missing is this one here called the EPUB Interactivity Preview panel. So I'm going to go to my window interactive and open up EPUB Interactivity Preview. And I'm going to tuck this one way up here at the top. See, I'm waiting for that little blue line to show up. And this little EPUB Interactivity Preview panel, it's very long to say, we're going to use over and over again to just test how some of these animations and buttons are going to work, just to make sure that they're good before I spend the time exporting them. All right, so those are just a couple of the panels that I move around, and then I have a bunch of other ones. But what I do then is I'll save this as a workspace. I'll save it as a workspace. I'll give it a name. And so then anytime I need to go to this digital workspace, I choose my LR digital workspace, and you can see that I've got all the panels that I need here. So that's the very, very basics of working with your digital documents, is set up a really good workable workspace for yourself. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to set up some buttons. So let me open up my document, and the first page here, I'm going to show you what we're going to produce. So I'm going to go to the EPUB Interactivity, and I'm going to play the first page. So notice down here, I've got multiple pages, and I have just a single page. I'm just going to choose the single page because I only want to play page 1, which is the active page. And then I'll hit this little play button to preview what this is going to look like. So what we're going to set up right now is 3 buttons. We're going to have an info button that when I click on it, it's going to show an X, and it's also going to show the caption. And then when I'm done reading the caption, I want to close it. So I click back on the X and the caption will go away. This type of a button scenario you can use for so many things in your digital documents. You could have a map, you could have a little button on the map that you press on that state and open up some information about that state or the headquarters. There are so many different uses for this. All right, so again, we're going to have 3 buttons. You're going to click on that info and it switches to the X and shows that caption. All right, so let's set up how we're going to do that. So I'm going to come over here to page 2, and I have all 3 of these buttons. Sorry, they're not buttons yet. They're text frames. I've got them already set up. So here's how we do it. The first thing, we're going to set all 3 of these as a button. So Shift key, I've selected all of them. I'll come over here to my buttons and forms. I'll come down to type and turn this into a button. Now I have to go and isolate each button and tell it what to do. So I've got this info selected. Now I could name this it's actually a very good idea for what I'm about to do, and you'll see why. So I'm going to name that info. Now I have to give it an action. So by pressing this little plus, I give it the action of showing and hiding buttons and forms. Well, I have a visibility section down here, but you can see that I've got button 5 and button 6. So this is going to show you that it is very important to go ahead and name the buttons so that you know which ones you're working with. So I'm going to pause on that. I'm going to come back over here, and I'm going to call this one X close. I'll click on this text here and type in caption for that name. Now, when I go back to this info button, you'll see that the action show hide buttons and forms is already here. And now I can tell it what to do. So there are 3 states, or I shouldn't use the word states, 3 visibilities that every one of these buttons can do. It can either show, that's the eyeball, or /eyeball is hide, or the X, it's kind of a bad icon. I think I don't like the icon. The X basically means don't do anything. So if it's on, leave it on. If it's off, leave it off. So when I press info, I want the X to close to turn on. I want the caption to turn on. And now the info, I want it to turn off. So let's test it out. So I'll hit up here to EPUB preview. I'll click. I'm like, oh no, my X and my little caption are still or already on the page. If I clicked on info, the info goes away, but it doesn't really work. What I did wrong here is I didn't tell these two buttons to hide until triggered. So I can click on that little check mark and say, hey, X and caption, you guys are going to be hidden until I tell you to turn on. All right, so let's test this out now. I'll hit play. Info is the only thing that's there. I click on the info and look at that. My X and my caption will turn on. Now I'm going to reverse that. I'm going to click on the X and I want the info to come back and the caption to go away. So I'll come back over here to the X, buttons and forms, plus to show hide buttons and forms. And now I just have to think about it. I have to say, okay, I want the info to show. I want the X to go away. So I click on that a couple times and the caption also to go away. All right, let's test it out one more time. And here we have the info button and I click on that to get both of those to show up. I click on the X, caption goes away, X goes away, and the info comes back. Okay, so to clean this up, I'll just kind of put this over the top. I'll line these up nicely. And now if I go ahead and export this file to a PDF, I just want to show you that buttons will work in a PDF file. Here it is. It loaded over on this side. And here is my PDF file, just this one page. And you can see that these buttons will work in a PDF. Now, there is absolutely no guarantee. For those of you who have played with these things, everybody has a different type of a reader. Not everybody has Acrobat Pro. So you absolutely do have to test these on all PDF, as many of them as you can possibly test. Okay. All right. So that's the first little section here. I just wanted to show you how to set up a quick button navigation and or a button, turning on and off for those buttons. All right. So if you look at your handout, I've got all that information set up here and some of the things that you want to make sure to watch out for. All right. Next thing I'm going to just talk about here as a general topic is animation. So we're going to set up a couple different ways that we can use animation in a document. And at the end of this, remember, we're going to export all this out to In5 and publish online and see what doesn't work in our PDF. So let's set up our animations. So I'm going to open up a document that we are going to animate some text going into coming onto the screen. So let me just kind of play what we're going to do, something like this. Notice how what is your and favorite and chocolate and dessert and the question mark come in at the same time. And then I have a slow movement of a photo across the screen. So let's go ahead and set that up. And I'm going to come over here to this page where I have the same exact information, but I just don't have any of the animations on. All right, so let me hide those hidden characters. So to set up our animations, we're going to select a box, a frame. It can be anything, a frame, a text frame. It can be a line, it can be a photograph, or it could be a group of those things. So I've got one of these selected. I'll come over here to my animations panel. And what is nice is the fact that it does name it with the first couple letters or words, which was very helpful. And then we're going to choose a preset. Now that first one did a fade in, or sorry, a fly in from top. So we'll try that one. And you can see that our little butterfly, we were talking about our nostalgic butterfly from, I don't know, 2.0 or whenever this came on here, shows you in the animations panel a little prequel of what you're going to get with that animation. Now, these presets will automatically, as a default, the event on which the animation will start to play, the default is on page load. I'm going to talk about that a lot more, but I just want you to notice that it starts with on page load. You can set up a duration of how long it's going to happen. You can set up a bunch of other things that I'll get to a lot of this stuff as we go. So let's do another one. I'm going to make a quick mistake here. I'm a big fan of making mistakes so that we can show how to fix some of those. So I'm going to make a mistake and I'm going to animate chocolate first. So clicking on chocolate, let me have this fade in. So I'll choose fade in, and maybe I want it to go a little slower. I want it to slowly fade in. So I'll add in a little bit more of a duration. All right, now I'm going to go up here to favorite, and I'd like for this favorite to come in from the side. So, or kind of on an angle. So I'll choose fly in, doesn't really matter, fly in from right or left. But the point is that I have a little green line here that shows the movement. By selecting that green line, I have the area selected, and I can make it longer or shorter, but I can't change the angle. So it's a little cumbersome. I have to come back to this little direct selection tool, and I have to then click on one of these end points, and then I can move that little green line, and then I return back to the selection tool. So it is a little bit cumbersome. Okay, so let's test this out and see what I've got. So I'm going to hit play, and you'll see that what is your, then chocolate, then favorites come in. So I've got these in the wrong order, and I'm going to fix those in just a moment, but the animation is starting to come together. Now we can also do dessert and the question mark. So I'll do this one, and let me choose, grow. Now with grow is a little weird. Let me just show what that does right out of the gate. So what is your and chocolate and favorite? And notice how dessert, it started where it was, and now it ended 200% larger. So let me show you where those settings are. So I've got dessert selected, back to animation. There is a very confusing choice here, animate from the current appearance. That's what is, again, the default. It uses the current object's properties as starting appearance, and then it will go to whatever settings you have down here. So I don't want it to do it from the current appearance. I want to go to the current appearance. And just opposite from 200, I want to start it at, you know what, I'm going to start it at 10 because I want you to be able to see that. So I can set this as a 10% size starting point. And you can see that there is a little reference point here that says, do that animation growing from the center. So let's test this one out, see what happens. And they are happening in the order that I have applied these animations. And there you see the dessert comes from a 10%. It was pretty quick. So you saw that it grows to the current size that you've got right now. All right, last one really quickly here. I'll just pop an animation on here, and I'll choose fly in from right. Now, the problem with doing the animation, I shouldn't say problem, but the thing you have to remember with doing these animations is you have to do them in the correct order, or you have to work with them on the timing panel. So we already realized that chocolate was done in the wrong order. So I can just simply grab favorite and pull that up and correct the order. The other cool thing you can see with this timing panel is I can have two animations play at the same time. And I'm going to do this with a couple other examples, but I'm going to select dessert and the question mark. And there's a button down at the bottom here that allows me to make those two play together. So let me do the last one, and then I'll show the whole thing. I want this large photograph you saw in the example. I want the large photograph to slowly pan across the screen. I'm going to zoom down, not that far, but I'm going to zoom down a bit. And here's how I would accomplish that. I have my frame selected that has my photo. My preset, I'm going to go to move left. I will get that little green line. And then I want to change the duration from 1 second to 6 or so seconds. Now, I don't know where this is going to start or end. So there's another really helpful button at the bottom of the animation panel. It's called the Show Animation Proxy. I'm going to click on this, and you'll see that, let me zoom down a little bit more. I know it's going to be a little hard to see, but there's a little gray line. Let me turn it on and off. You see that little gray box that's showing up. It says, well, here's where it's going to end up when I move. So as I zoom in a little closer here, you see that that gray box is going to make the photo come off the page a little tiny bit. I'm going to have a little white sliver there. I don't want that. So what I can do is I can adjust, grabbing the little green line. I'm going to adjust and not make it move quite as far. So I'm just going to go back a tiny bit Click on this again. My animation proxy is on, and there you see how that gray shape is now not past the edge of the paper. All right, so let's test this out, see what it looks like. I've got the right order here, favorite and then chocolate. Notice how dessert and the question mark come on at the same time. And then that photo is going to pan all the way across the page. And because I set this up at 6 seconds, it'll take that much time to go across. Okay. All right. So that's a little taste of just kind of the basics with the animation. Next thing I want to do is I want to take it a little bit of a step further. So I'm going to do this example and I'll show you what we're going to do with this one. So right out of the gate, you'll see that nothing shows up. No animation begins when I first show this page. I have a little direction button at the bottom that says click here to start the animation. And obviously you can say, check out our, yearly profits or something. You can get some creative words here. So I'm going to click here to start the animation. And what's going to happen is these little bars are going to grow upwards. And once they go to the top, then the information is going to show up at the top of the screen. Okay. Kind of a neat way to show off your data. See, I was talking with somebody a little bit earlier and they were saying that they're doing, it sounded like some sort of an annual report. A lot more fun to look at the data this way than it is in a stagnant just table. So let me show you how we can set something like this up. So again, I'm going to go to my page that has the page with just the elements on it. And here's a cool trick. It's actually, I think I left it in the PDF. I did. So I left this in the PDF. I love showing this trick. Create a bar graph that grows from the bottom up. But I talk here, here it is, number 3. I talk about setting up these numbers at an exact percentage height. So a lot of people say, well, how do I get the actual percentages to work for my objects? Well, I'll just draw the shape that, let's say that's going to be 100%. And I'll come up here to my reference point and I'll choose the bottom middle reference point. And the height, whatever that number is, I'll just do a times 0.70%. And I got to type in my percentage sign here and hit return. That didn't work the way I wanted it. Times, I guess it's just times 0.70. There it is. That's what I put the percentage, which I didn't have to. And that is now 70% of the 100% size. So I should have copied this, but I'll do it again. I'll pretend that I know that that's 100%. And again, with the height down here, I can do times 0.30, let's say, and hit return. And there is now a 30 for the height of my, my chart. So that's how you can get your charts to make them actual numbers. All right, so that was a separate little tip here. So now let's make this column grow. And this is a little bit weird. So I do have the directions here and I've got a couple things highlighted to make sure that you do this correctly. All right, here's how we make a column grow. The first thing, we're going to select the column, go to animation. It is a very good idea to name this. I've gone ahead and named these objects. And just a side note, if you do name them in your layers panel, that name, when you turn it into an animated object, will automatically show up. So you can kind of use the layers panel and the animation panel together. Okay, so I've got it selected. I want to come down to my preset and just choose a preset. And it doesn't really matter what it is. And then I'll come over to my little reference point here. And I'll click that little bottom middle button because that's where I want the object to grow from. Then I'll go to my scale and I'll say the width is 100%, but I want this to be the height starting at 0. Now, remember the issue we ran into earlier about this animate from or to current appearance? This is just confusing. So let me just show what's going to happen here. So when I play this, did you see it snap? Let me do it again. It's confused. It starts and it gets bigger and it gets smaller. The problem here is it's needing to animate to the current appearance. So you wanted to animate from, see these words here, animate from a height of 0 from the reference point at the very bottom middle, and the width is still at 100%. And now let's try this, see what happens. And there, of course, it's not going to work. And there's one more thing I gotta mix. And the other problem here is that the opacity starts with from preset. You have to make sure the opacity is none. That's one of the reasons why that is not showing up. Let me hit play again. And finally, we've got this thing to get it to work. So I told you it's a little bit weird to make these little columns grow. There's a couple major things we have to set up. So let me do that again. I'll go to this one, go to animation, choose any random one of these, probably not disappear. Let me choose appear. And I want it to animate to the current appearance, what it looks like now. And I want to animate it from the bottom. I've unchecked this link, so the constraint is unchecked and the height is 0. And the opacity, I don't want it to fade in or fade out or anything. I just want it to show up and grow, so I choose none. And let me play this again. And there you see 1 and 2 are going to grow. Okay, so I can go ahead and select the next 2 here, choose my animation and make this to appear. Then I'll choose to the current appearance. There's a lot of clicking here. I really wish that I could have a click monitor to figure out how many times I click with setting up some of these animated documents, because there's a lot. And there we go. So I can go ahead, and that didn't work. Got to click away here. To the current appearance, none. Oh, I didn't set up my zeros. Okay, so there's 1 for that one. And there's a 0 for this one. All right, let's test it. And now on page load, you see what's happening is each one of these bars is growing in turn, because I animated them in the order left to right. Now, let's go ahead and add this fading up here. So I've got the 4 objects that I've got selected, and I'll go here to animation, and I will say to fade in. And now we'll see what happens. So because animation does its thing in the order in which you select and apply it, you can see that I do the 4 bars and then I do the 4 circles. So if I wanted them to be the circle showing up after each one of the bars, I have to go to my timing panel. And this is where I'm just going to have to go through and readjust the locations of each one of my rectangles. So I've got a rectangle happening, and then the truffle photo, the second rectangle, and then the cupcake photo, and so on. Now, I want to just show you how it would look if 2 of them would play together. So I'll do these 2 and play those together. And let's just take a look, sit back. The bar grows in the animation, and you can see I don't like them when they're set together. Sometimes I will, and sometimes I won't. All right, so I'm going to take that off. So I'm going to go back here to timing, click on these, remove that so that they don't play together. Okay, so with animations, they automatically play on page load. But what's really cool is that you can set these animations up so that they play only when you tell them to play. So go in here and change my text. I changed my screen. So there we go. So I'm going to make this button real big. And I want these animations to play only when I press a button. So here's how I would do that. The first one that I want to play is this rectangle here. So there's 2 ways to do this. So I may do this one way, and then I may undo and show you the actually, no, let me redo that. Let me show you the kind of the long way, and then I'll show you the short way. So I want to turn this button here into a button so that when I click on it, the animation is the action that is performed. So I select this button, I go to my buttons and forms, and I turn it into a button. Doesn't really matter the name. Then what I'll do is I'll add an action to this. And the action that I want is an animation. So I'll click the animation. And then what is the animation? Well, it's the number 1 rectangle, and I want it to play. Now, I've got one more other thing that I have to do, but I'm going to set this up with a mistake. And at first you're like, whoa, wait a minute. Why is this playing automatically? I thought we were setting that button up in order to have this happen. Well, we did. Watch, click, and it does play that animation every time I click the button. You know the problem? If I come back here to this rectangle, you will see that the event that the animation is going to happen on is on page load and the on release of that button. So that is probably one of the most frustrating things that always happens to me with creating animations is I forget to remove the on page load checkmark. It comes on as a default. I never put it on. It comes on for every single object. So by turning that off, now as I play this, you can see that everything else will play. I have to press this button in order to get that animation to play. Okay, so let me back up a second. I'm going to undo that and undo and undo. So this now is no longer a button. So I'm back to square one. Here's another way I can do this. And let me actually do this with something else. With lack of something more creative to do, maybe I have a button that I want to press to make the title fly in. So let me quickly choose a fly in from top for this favorite chocolate dessert. Now, I don't want favorite chocolate dessert to happen until I click on something. So I'm going to turn off on page load. And now I have this button right over here. Let me read the tooltip. It says create a button trigger. It says click the icon and then click an object to trigger this animation. What this means is I want this favorite chocolate dessert to fly in from the top when this button is pressed. So I can click this button here, move over and tell this title button to be a button, click, that will automatically play the animation of favorite chocolate dessert. That's a really cool little time saver. Let me play it, kind of ignore the rest of this thing building. But if I click on this title, click, favorite chocolate dessert will then fly in from the top. Okay, so that's another way that you can set up a button quickly to automatically play an animation. But what I want to do here is to set it up, click here to start the animation, and I'm going to go here to buttons. I'll turn it into a button, and I want it to play an animation. And I can actually stack up multiple animations one after another. So you can see here, I'm going to choose, I think Truffles is next. Choose Truffle. See, I'm adding in more animations, and I want the second rectangle to play. I'll add in another animation, and this time I want the cupcake photo. I'll add in another one. See, there's a ton of clicks here, the third rectangle. I'll add in another one. This is now ice cream. This is a good reason why you name them. Almost done here. The fourth rectangle, and now the last moose photo. Okay. I have forgotten something though. If I play this, it's going to play right away. And I don't want it to play right away. So I'm going to stop this. I have to tell all of these in my animations panel to not play on page load. So by turning that on page load off, now it will only listen to the release of this button at the bottom. All right, so let's test it out one last time. And there, nothing happens because I've told all 8 of those items, or actually 9 for the title, I've said, don't do anything until I press one of these buttons. So I'm going to press the title will come in, click here to start the animation, click, and now you'll see that all 4 of those, actually 8 of those animations are going to play one after another because I've set them all up in my buttons and forms panel, one after the other. Okay. All right. So those two examples, there are so many other examples here that we can use to set up these animations, but those are just a couple animation examples. Now, what I'm going to do here is just quickly export these page 2. Well, I'll just do that for interactive and just click a quick export and look what nothing happens. So here's my PDF. Nothing's moving, nothing's happening. I think I did this first one without that title button here, but no animation is happening. So you absolutely cannot use any of this animation in a PDF. It'll only work in your Publish Online or your In5 documents. Okay. All right, so we did our bar graph and we triggered an animation with a button. So I've got the directions here of exactly how to do that, how to click on it, how to set everything up. Talk a little bit about the timing panel here and how to set that up. All right, the next example I've got here talks about hyperlinks and destinations. So we're going to set up a little menu that it's got a hamburger menu and it's got a little close box, and then it's got page next buttons and page previous buttons. But it also is going to have an animation where the menu is going to animate on the page, and we're going to be able to click on these little buttons to go to the specific pages. So again, I got all the directions here. Let's set up and how this will work. So I've got a finished and a start document. And let's first go to the finished document. Okay, so here's my finished document and I'll play it. So what happens is I have a hamburger menu. When I click on it, an animation will slide or fly in from the right side. And you'll see that the hamburger menu will then turn to an X. I'll click on the X. The animation will reverse. Did you see that? And it will also show back the hamburger menu. So I'll click it again and show it up. Now, this is a 5-page document. So I do have to hit that 5-page button here to render all 5 of these pages in order for me to allow it to flip to the next page. Clicking on Moose brings me to the Moose page. Clicking on this one and clicking on Truffles brings me to the Truffles page. All right, so that's our goal. We also have these buttons to go from previous page to second or to next page, little buttons that these will actually work on a PDF. They will definitely work on a PDF. All right, so let's set this up. And yes, I saw chocolate, that somebody loves chocolate as much as I do. So everybody's going to go back and go to the freezer and grab some ice cream after this, right? Okay, so let's set this up. This is my start document. There's no buttons, there's no animation, nothing is set up. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create some destinations. Now, this topic right here can be used in a PDF document. So here's what I'm talking about. I want to be able to click on a button like this Moose button and go to a specific page that talks about Moose. Now, I could select the word Moose and set it up as a button and say, okay, go to page 2 or go to page 3, page 4, whatever pages I've got here. The problem with this is I may reorder this information. I also might add more chocolate. Yes, I might add another type of a dessert. So I might have 16 different types of chocolate here. And therefore, if I say that Moose is on page 2, that may not be correct anymore. So I'm going to set up some destinations. A lot of us remember the movie Field of Dreams, where you say, if you build it, they will come. I want you to think about that movie when you're building these destinations, because I know I struggled with this. I said, well, wait, what do I set up first? Do I say where to go, or do I? No, you have to set up the destination first. Then you can have a button go to that destination. All right, here's how we do it. You're going to find a place on your page that is consistent towards the top of the page and put your cursor blinking in it. So I'm just going to use this spot right here. And I'll go over here to my hyperlinks panel. I will go to the magic menu. If you've been in my classes before, I call this little menu here the magic menu because it has so many magical things in it. All right, magic menu. Come over here to, wait for the chat to blow up on that one. New hyperlink destination. So I have chosen a new hyperlink and I type in the text anchor destination. Now, if you look closely, there's two little dots here, a little colon. This is in my invisible character. Some of you may have seen these little dots here and wondered what the heck that was. It's a destination. So let me do it again. I'll come over here to cupcakes, put my cursor blinking, magic menu, new hyperlink, cupcake. That is close enough. I'm not going to worry about typing. And I'll click here on truffles and new hyperlink destination, TRU. See, you try to type while you're talking at the same time. Here we have ice cream and I'm going to click. Now, let me do something a little bit different here. Sometimes I find I don't have a place to put it. So I have been known to make a little box at the top of my page and just put a destination up there. So I'll try that here and I'll go new hyperlink destination and call it IC for ice cream. And now I've put in all of my destinations. Now, I wish Adobe were listening right now because I would say, please give me another menu or another panel that allows me to see where those destinations are and that I've already got them set up. But unfortunately, they do not show up anywhere here in this hyperlinks panel. There are a couple scripts that you can get to show the hyperlink anchors. They're text anchors, but it's an extra script. All right, so now that I have those destinations set up, it's time for me to set up the buttons for my menu. I'll come back over here to my parent page, and this menu, I want to set up so that these buttons take me to those pages. So this is a group, and by double clicking on the group, I've isolated the Moose text frame, and I'll come over here to my buttons and forms, and I'll turn it into a button. I'm going to name this M for Moose. And I'll come down here and I want to go to a destination. I'll click on go to destination and you'll see right here, these destinations, or this is where those destinations are going to show up. So I'm on Moose and I will choose Moose. Okay. All right. So then I'll come back over here to cupcakes. I'll do it again. I'll click that there. I'll hit just C for cupcakes. And again, I'll go to a destination, I'll choose the document, and I'll also choose the cupcake destination. So I'm going to quickly run through these. And this one, I'll call it T for truffle, go to a destination, and again, come down to truffles. Last one here, ice cream, and destination, and ice cream. All right, so I've got all those destinations set up. Now I'm going to do pretty much the same thing I did here with the buttons that I did at the very beginning with all of the coffee. Let me select all 4 of these, turn them all into button, and I'll make this one my open button. I'll make this my close button. And this, I have to make it an animated object. So I'll turn on my animation and I'm going to fly in from right. Now, this is a perfect example of why I want to use that show animation proxy. I want to use it because I need this thing to start off of the page. So I'll pull that out, reselect, and I'll just make sure here that the gray is off the page and this little teal is on just the edge of that page. All right, so that looks pretty good. And next, I have to set these buttons up to give it an action of what to do. So I'll go to the buttons and forms panel for the open, and there's 2 actions that I want this hamburger button to do. The first action is I want it to play the animation. So choose animation. The animation is called menu, and I want it to play. See that option here for play the animation. The second thing that I want the hamburger button to do is to show and hide buttons and forms. So I want it to show my close. And I also want it to close my open. I know, very confusing, but I want to turn off the open hamburger button. Okay, the rest of these are just buttons for other things. They're actually these forward and backward buttons. So then I'll come over here to my close button. Same thing. I want the animation to not play, but reverse. So you can see that I can tell when the close button is pressed that the animation will reverse and move back off of the page. And I also want it to show and hide the buttons and forms. And I want to close the close and open that open box or that open button here. Okay, so I know that's confusing. There's a lot of stuff going on here. The last thing I'll do here is I'll turn on these. These are my next button to go to, there it is, next page. And this button here to, let's see, this is previous. And the plus to go to my previous page right there. All right, so let's see what is going to happen here. I'm going to go to page 1. I'll go to the EPUB interactivity. I'll set all 3 pages up, see what happens, and I'll hit play. Take a second here. I've done one thing wrong right out of the gate, and that is that my animation, remember I told you it's going to come back and bite us, that animation automatically plays without waiting for a button to press. So I'll go fix that in a minute. But if I click on my hamburger, that will play the animation. Notice how the hamburger goes away. When I click on the X, that goes away and the animation goes back and the hamburger shows up. The playing of that, let me test this. If I click on moose, it goes to moose. And then you'll also notice here that this is underneath everything else on the page. So I've got a lot of things to fix here. The first one is, do I want this X to show or this X to play at the, or I should say show right away? No. So this is a button. So I'm going to come over to the buttons and forms and I'm going to say, hey, X, you are hidden until you're triggered. Same thing I'm going to do to this animation. I'm going to click on the animation and say, hey, animation, I do not want you to play. Well, this won't work. I could try this, but it's not going to work because what's going to happen here is the event of the animation is going to automatically play on the page load. No matter what happens to the page, the minute that thing loads, the animation is going to play. So I have to remember to turn off the playing of the animation on page load. That's the fix for this. All right. The other thing I need to deal with here is the layering. So I get this question a lot where things are not in the correct order. So, or things are being hidden on the master pages. So what we're going to do is we're going to add another layer, and this layer, I'll just call this one, top elements. And I'm on my parent page. I'll select all these elements. Notice the blue outline around the outside. I can click and drag this little dot up and drop it right there on the other layer. And now everything is red. So now everything that's on that parent page is going to be on the top of everything else on the other pages. Okay, let's test this one out. This is a little deep. This is a lot of detail here, but let's test it out. And you can see that the animation does not play. The X is gone. And the hamburger button, if I click on it, the X shows up, the animation shows up, and now I can click on the moose and it pops over to the moose page. I'll do it again. Click on the animation, truffles, and it goes to the exact page that I want it to go. Remember ice cream? I had that setting way up here at the top of that page. It works there too. Okay, so I'm going to clean this up just a tiny bit here, pull this over and tuck it underneath. All right. Now I do want to export this one out to a PDF. I want to show you how. Let's put in my initial there, interactive PDF. And I want to show how, pull this over here. This will kind of work in a PDF. So the menu won't, if I wanted this to show up and turn on and off, I would not want it to be an animation. I would want it to be a button, very much like this one we did earlier, where I would show it as a button and turn it off. So that's a possibility. But if you click on moose, you see how it goes to the moose page. If I click on cupcakes, it goes to the cupcake page. So remember I said at the very beginning of this, I said that the destinations that you set up, you can use those in your PDF documents. And even though it's not going to handle this animated menu going on and off the page, you can reset this up so that this will show and hide, but you can click and move around the document by setting up these little destinations. Okay. All right. So that's the example for a kind of a complex example with the hamburger menu. And I think I've got all this correctly set up for you in here, so you can kind of read through this and set up these destinations. You can create the animated menu, you can trigger the menu, and you just don't forget to turn off this this on page load. All right. So that's animation. The next page here, I talk about the buttons on that parent page. I'm working through, going through, changing everything from master page to parent page. Okay, let me pause for one drink. And we're going to move on to the last major topic of the information I want to show you about how to create this stuff in InDesign. And then we're going to take some of these documents that we've got and export it to publish online and upload it to my website using In5. So the last topic here is a multi-state object. So a multi-state object, or an MSO, this is going to work in pretty much, well, it's definitely not going to work in PDF. It's going to work in an EPUB, an In5 document, a publish online document. Absolutely will not work in a PDF. So a multi-state object, it's also called an MSO. So if you hear people talk about it on, there's some Facebook groups out there, or, how to do stuff. An MSO stands for multi-state object. So it's a special group of frames that can display more than one image or text content in turn. So objects are either, somebody might want to mute, there you go. Objects, either a single photo or a frame or a group of those, are stacked on top of each other. And then you can cycle through those multi-state objects to show the many different items. So they're only viewed in a digital file. They're not supported in PDF. And when printed, only the first state will show. So let me show you how to create an MSO, or a multi-state object, with a bunch of stacked photos. More chocolate. All right, so here's an example of how you may want to show some larger photos on your digital document. Oh, I set this up for multiple pages here. And you want the user to click a little arrow here to cycle through all of those photos. Now, there's 4 here, but you can put 15, 20 different photos and have somebody cycle through all of those. All right, let's set it up. So I've got a blank page here. I'm going to show you the gridify trick. I'm sure you've seen this before, but I'm selecting 5 items. I also want the logo here. I'm going to click OK or open, and I have 5 photos loaded, and I want to gridify with 4 of them. So what I'll do is click and drag and make a nice big square or rectangle on my page. And then I'm going to hit my up arrow key and my right arrow key. When I do those 2, I now have broken this square into a grid of 4. And now when I release, I have those 4 photos filling those 4 frames. I have the logo that's just sitting out here. I can just pop that logo onto the side. Now I've got those 4 frames. I'm going to select them all and do this fill frame proportionally button here. And that's just going to make sure that they go to the edges. Now I'll also use my alignment panel to align all 4 of these selected ones to their left edges as well as their top edges. So that's how I get my MSOs with bunches of a bunch of photographs stacked on top of one another at the right size pretty quickly. Is I use Gridify. So again, I have all 4 of these selected. I want them to be a little larger. I'll hold down my Command Shift or Control Shift and make them bigger. All right, I'm going to pull this logo on top of all that mess, and we're going to see how to make a multi-state object. So I have, go to my layers, 5 elements. They're all sitting on top of one another. To make a multi-state object, I have to select them all. I'll go to my object states panel, and it tells you right here what to do. It says, click the new button to make each object a separate state. So I'll click this little new plus button at the bottom, click, and now I have all of those as separate states. I can name this Yum. And if I wanted to, I could go through and name each one of these states if I wanted to. I will for the next example, but I don't need to do this here. All right, so what do I do with this MSO? Well, I have to have the user some way to cycle through these different photographs. And we're going to do a little arrow. So the quickest way I know to make a little triangle arrow is to make a square, and I'll just pop up the size. I'll make this 45, and I only want half of this. So I'm going to get my direct selection tool, click on the little point here. I'll choose cut. I'll hit paste, and that allows me to just cut and paste these little arrows on my page. All right, so there we've got them. And of course, we'd want to select them and align them. But now I need to give them something to do. I'll select this first one, and I'm going to set up a button. I'll make it a button. Don't really need to name this one, but the action here is to go to next state. I don't care which state, just the next one. And you can see that Yum is the name of the multi-state object. Now I could choose to stop at the last state if it was like a step-by-step. I don't really care. I want to have them go through it again and again if they want to. Let me do that over here. I'll select this one, again, turn it into a button, and I'll say to go to the previous state. Don't want to stop, and let's see what this looks like. Turn it to the first page here. And you can see that the first state, which is my logo, shows up, and then I'll hit these buttons, and I keep clicking. Every time I click, I'm switching from one picture to the next. So that is the basics of how an MSO or a multi-state object can work. Let's do another take on this. Same exact idea, but this time we have buttons that will go to one of the specific states. Again, I'll play this, and the logo shows up. And what I like to do is to put a little bit of directions of what to do. So I'll click on truffle, click on cupcake, click on this, and I'll be able to read some information. So this is a group of 2 or 3 different boxes, different frames. It's just a group, and then turned into a MSO. So here's how we do it. So here's my page. Here they are. See that? I've got 4 different groups of a photo in a frame. I'll undo, put them back on top of each other. And then over here, I have my directions. By selecting these object states, plus I just turn them into a multi-state object. So this one is choose me. That's the name of the state. And you can see that I've already named them just to make time easier. I did that in the layers panel. But now what I want to do is I want to say for this button, I want to turn it into a button and make it show the truffles state. So I'll go to buttons and forms, turn it into a button. And the action is to go to not next or previous like I did with my arrows, but go to a specific state here. The choose me, that's the name of the state, the MSO, but which state it is called the truffle state. So I can just, again, it just takes lots of clicks. I'll turn all these into buttons. I'll choose cookies or cupcakes. Oh, I should get cookies here. Go to a state, choose the cupcakes, and just going back and forth, go to a state, choose mousse, ice cream. It's a button. I go to a state and I choose ice cream. All right, so I've set it up. I click, I play. There it is. Click on a dessert on the side to read about it. Okay, I'll click on truffles and there's my information. Click on cupcakes, mousse, ice cream. So MSOs are incredibly useful for those complex animations that you might want to do. Here's another example of a way an MSO could work. It's exactly the same thing that we just did, except this one has little circles. And you can see that by clicking on cupcakes or mousse or ice cream, it's pointing to a different place on my photo, and it's showing a different, different area. Think of a map. If you have a map and you're trying to point to different locations of your company, you can click at the bottom to set these up. Okay, so this is exactly the same idea. Here's the raw file. I won't do every button here, but if I select all of these and my directions, I can go here to my object states panel, make it into a state, and here they are. If I click on one of these buttons, I'll just do one here. I'll go to buttons, turn it into a button, and say, go to a specific state. And I didn't take the time here to name it, but that's my truffle state. And I'll just play it. Only the one button will work. But you can see that my MSO was, I set up the information, I got the directions, I click on truffles, and it shows that one picture. Okay, so there's so many different ways that you can use an MSO. Okay, now I'm not going to set up how to use this, but this is just another example of an MSO where you can make a button as a rollover, and you can see that as you roll over that, you can have something play, you can roll over something else and have a different item play with that with an MSO. Okay, so those are just 3 different things sitting right on top of each other. Okay, so that is the quickest overview you've probably seen of the, yeah, somebody says they need a drink. Me too. Hopefully a chocolate martini. So now what I want to do in my last few minutes here is I want to show how these things are exported out as I'm going to do in5 first, because I think you've seen PDF. I know you've seen PDF and you've seen Publish Online. Let me do in5 because it's just cool. So let me go here to this one. And this is my finished document. I'm going to hit save and I'm going to export this using in5. Here's the dialog box, and I'm just going to call this one, menu. And I kind of don't want to go over the top. Yeah, that's fine. I'll go over the top of those. Okay, I'm just going to choose all pages. I'll choose a slider fade in. Now, to the comment at the very beginning of our talk here, somebody had mentioned the vertical, that there's a document called, or something called vertical. If you choose borderless page scroll, you can get the simulation of like a long vertical page. Now, I know it's not going to have what you were talking about with all the animations of advertisements and things like that, but borderless page scroll is a really cool feature with in5 to make something look like it's a long scrolling page. So I'm just going to use this slider fade in, and I don't think there's anything else I want to add here. So I'm just going to click OK and let this thing export. Now, I'll tell you, this part here was a game changer for me when I saw somebody demonstrate what I'm going to demonstrate here, of how to get it up onto the website. And I, of course, have way too many windows open here. So I am trying to find my site ground. Okay, so I'm just going to, I had it open here, but it must have closed. I'm going to quickly best laid plans when you have everything set up and open. And log in. Okay, so I've got all my passwords in here. So, all right, so I use SiteGround. It's just one of the ones that I use. So here's my website. I'm going to go to Site Tools, and then I will go to File Manager. And in my File Manager, I've got this public HTML. Now I'm going to come back here to in5, and you can see that the in5 is finished. I could open in default browser, and that would show me what this thing looks like. I've showed it before, but I'm going to open up the containing folder. And where did you go? think you went right here. I had two things that opened up, and of course, there it is. I think it's right here. I wasn't paying attention of where I put it. So yes, these are today. So what happens is I get this assets folder and this index folder. I'm just going to right click and make a new folder with this. And I'm just going to call this LA, and I'll put a 4 after the end of it because I know I don't have one of those. So here I have this folder. And now I will again find, always a problem with so many things open. So here we have my site tools. And all I need to do is to take this folder and drop it and upload it into my public HTML. It's going to upload 53 files. And as I'm waiting for this to happen, oh, this one's actually going to go very, very, very quickly. So it's literally loading up. And now I'm going to go to my website, LoriRulin.com / the LA4, right? That's what I named it, index.html. And it's almost done. And you will see that once this thing loads up onto my server here, there it is. So it's closed. So I can hit close here. Once it loads up on my server, I'll find it here, LA number 4. There it is. Click. Come on. There it is, the index. So now I can just go to LA4 index, hit return, and there it is up on the web. So I can use the animation. I can click on the mouse. It goes from page to page. I can use these arrows to go from page to page. I can use the animation to close, and it goes backwards. And the best part about this is that it is sitting on my website in a folder that I choose to put it in. Okay. Now, I just saw one question that comes in is, yes, that will usually go into a folder called HTML5 output. That is what I was looking for. And I think I messed with the setting. So they just loosely went into that folder. But then the last thing that you would want to do with this link right here is you'd want to go into your website, and you'd want to put a link. And by putting a link in here and then allowing you to click on that link, you'll be able to direct your people to the file that you have now put up onto your website. Okay. So I'll just pop this link. This is one I did just earlier today. I'm just going to pop that link in there. But this has all the different pages of the animations that I showed, so that you can kind of go back and look at what these files look like. Here's another example of different languages that you can set up. This is set up within MSO. Okay. All right. Excellent. So that's what I had to talk about. Everybody take a deep breath. I know I talk fast. I throw a lot of information at you. I'll open it up here and let me kind of run through these chats, and either of the Allens, do you guys want to say anything with any questions that you guys have come up with that you saw?
I didn't see anything that wasn't answered as you went along, I think.
Okay.
Lori, I'm absolutely out of breath. I wasn't even talking.
So am I.
But it was there, and I'm glad that you have the link so that we can revisit as necessary.
Yeah.
Carry on. Who has questions?
Yeah. And participants, am I going to see?
I like how you created mistakes and you showed how to correct the mistakes.
Yeah, I like to do that because there are mistakes that I make all the time, and you're going to make the same ones. And I've made them thousands of times making this stuff. So good. Yeah, I agree.
There's a lot of trial and error on this.
It is. And it's funny because I use that interactivity preview like after every other one, because it catches a lot of stuff as you're going. And it does take time to export this out as a publish online or as an in5. It does take time. So yeah, so I like the fact that the EPUB is there. I'm so surprised that it's not in the digital workspace, that, you know, the digital publishing workspace. All right, what else was in here? Yeah, the math symbols, somebody, yeah, I love those. I use math all the time. Here, little random little tip is if you want to move something and you can use math, like let's say I'll just say plus 30px or something. If I hold down my option return, it will, I'm in the wrong field, x plus 100px. If I hold down the option in return, it's going to make a copy of it. So if I just hit return, it will just move it. But if I say plus 300 option return, it makes a copy. There's a bonus tip. All right, what else do we have here? We've got chocolate, lots of chocolate. See, this is why I use chocolate, because everybody's listening, everybody's hungry. Eva B, hi Eva B. Destinations show up in the cross references panel. I don't think they do. I had made a comment about the fact that those destinations don't show up. There is a, God, what is it called? There is a script. I forget the name of it. I'll find it though. It shows you all of the destinations. I've got it in here somewhere, but it shows you where all the destination, not the shared destinations are, but the anchors. Maybe it's A for anchor. I don't know.
Yeah,
But anyway.
thanks, Lori. How come you just are not ever aging? You look exactly the same as you did 20 years ago.
Thank you, Eva.
Photoshop.
It's Photoshop. It is. It's a blurred background.
I knew you'd have an answer.
Yeah, exactly. All right. What other things are in here? Yeah, In5, couple comments about In5. It really is an amazing program. It is a learning curve. I remember I saw it at a Creative Pro Week in Philadelphia back, I don't know, 10 years ago. And I literally thought, oh my gosh, the life changer. And it really is. It's a fabulous, fabulous program. So, take a stab at it if you're able. Now it's going to bug
Lori,
me.
can I ask a few questions about MSOs?
Yeah.
So I guess I'm always confused as to when I should use MSOs versus buttons showing and hiding. Like, I feel like you could achieve most of the things that you did using buttons and just saying show and hide, show and hide. I mean, that's obviously very cumbersome. Is that really what it does? Is it just makes that simpler?
When you start thinking, oh my God, I wish, here's where it goes for me. When I run, let's see, where am I? Buttons and forms, actions, show hide buttons and forms. When I find myself running out of room in this visibility, which come on, Adobe, allow us to expand it, that's when I say I really should be doing this with an MSO.
Okay.
Because 5 or 6, that's easy. That the coffee one at the very beginning, show and hide 2 or 3, relatively easy with buttons. But that once you get more than that, an MSO, once you get over the hump of the MSO and understand that it's just a bunch of things stacked on top of one another. Let me show you another example. And then you just have to have a way to control it. I think it is a little easier to understand. Let me show you another example.
Because like, I think I tried one once, and then like, as soon as you turn it into an MSO, then you can no longer see them on the page and you have to interact with the dialog box.
That is another issue. And because of that, I use my layers panel.
Yeah.
My layers panel is massive on my other screen when I'm dealing with an MSO, because I got to get in there and find what I'm looking for. Absolutely. Here's another example of an MSO. I was talking about a map where you can click. Oh, I don't think this one works. Darn it. Sorry. I have to upload. There's a couple that I have to fix, but if this did work, you would click on these little circles and the fruit that's grown in that space would show up. Yeah. Darn it. Oh, those two work. So this is an MSO where I've got a bunch of different circles around the outside edges, and then whatever circle you press, that's what's going to show. I have to update this one. That's my fault.
Okay.
But it is a tough thing of, how do I set this thing up? The other cool thing is you can actually have animations in an MSO. And so you can get some pretty complex things.
And so all MSOs are triggered by buttons, right? They don't exist on their own, correct?
Yeah, you have to say, go to the next state, like clicking on one of these buttons and go to the next state, or trigger it by choosing a button.
Yeah.
So you're right. You have to have some sort of a trigger in order to make that MSO show up.
Okay.
Yeah, I know it took me a while to wrap my head around.
Yeah, it's a lot for sure. Thank you.
Yeah, it is.
The text on these pages, is it text or is it images? Is it selectable and accessible to screen readers?
Yeah, that's another thing about In5 is that this the text is those are buttons. This is an old document. I really shouldn't be using this one. It's very, very old. Here, I'll just use this one. So this is see, these are all MSOs. This should be selectable. Oh, you know why? I think I rendered this all as images. That's why. So you can, in the In5 export, yes, you can choose how to make the image quality. So you can get higher or lower image quality. Sorry, this is not exactly where I want to be, but that's one thing is you can change the image quality of the export. This is where I wanted to be. Text rendering. So a lot of these that I've done make the text as images, and it's going to preserve the exact appearance. But if you did want to make sure that this stuff is selectable, you would choose some of these options down here. And this is where you'd have to embed your fonts and do a little bit of CSS with it, and add the fonts in there. But you can make these so that the text is selectable. And In5 does have a elite where you have accessibility. So it's got an elite subscription, more expensive, of course, but he's working on accessibility so that you can have screen readers work with it. And I don't know a ton about that. Check out Chad and Dax. I don't know if you've probably had Chad Chelios on, and they've got a great accessibility podcast called Chax, I think, CHAX, if you want to learn more about accessibility.
Thank you.
All right. Somebody asked, oh, Alan, you asked about the public HTML. Yeah, that is a universal folder on most hosting services. Okay. Somebody said demonstrate rollovers. Yeah, a rollover within 4 seconds here. If I have a button, I can go to my buttons panel, and here, let me pull this out. The deal with a rollover, let me make a new one here. I promise I'll be very quick on this. So if I've got an object that I want to use as a button, if I just go over here to rollover, whatever I do to this item that is selected, when rollover is chosen, like I'm going to double click to access just the photo, get it again in the photo, and lower the opacity. So you see how I did all that stuff on the rollover. Now I'm done with it. I click away. Oops, sorry. I click away, but I have to return back to normal. And so then I'll just play this page, and you can see that it's full strength, but when I roll over that, it sure goes to a lower opacity. So a rollover is simply, and this is another one of those that really gave me some trouble. It's just, you got to do something different to it when rollover is chosen, whether that's putting on a really thick frame around the outside. It's just whatever you do to it in that rollover state, is going to be the rollover. Now you have to return it back to normal, and then you can give it an action of something to do. You know, you can say, go to state, and I've got one underneath here, and I'll go to this pink recipe to show the pink recipe. All right, let's play it, see what happens. I'll click play. And as I roll over this and I click, you see how it shows that state, but when I roll off, it turns off. So I got to click to make that pink cupcake recipe show. Okay, so yeah, a rollover is simply go choose the word rollover, and then whatever you do to this, when you're in the rollover state, you can make it bigger. That's what's going to happen when you roll over it. So I'll play this one again. Roll over, and look at that, it goes much larger. Okay, hopefully that it quickly answered it. Okay. All right, what else? How does the file look on smart devices like phones? Go to the link that I gave to you and take a look at it on a phone. And it does, it's better if you rotate your file. In5 does have an ability to create a exported, a responsive layout. So if it is noticing that your phone is vertical, it will show you one layout, and you would handle that over here in your pages panel. If you have it horizontal, it would show a different layout. But yeah, test out that link that I shared with you guys. Pull it up on a phone, pull it up on a tablet. It's not great on a phone, I will admit. You know, I do find if I have to do something that's mostly being read on a phone, I got to make everything really big. But it works. It works. Okay. Okay. Brenda's got an audio question. I'm going to plead the fifth on that one. That's just a whole other, can't be done in minutes. Okay. Simple alias for the URLs generated by InDesign, maybe not quickly. There's an awesome script. Check out scripts. I know we're running up on time here. All right. Any other major questions that you guys have? If you guys want to pop if you, Allens, can put the Dropbox link back in there again. Somebody else is asking for the presentation download. And as for the practice files, I hate to say it, but these are my files that I use for a lot of my presentations. So I'm reluctant to give away the actual working file, but the presentations that you've got, or the printout that I've got, should hopefully help you, as well as these links for the actual presentation finished. And I do have this also as a Adobe InDesign file and a publish online file. And this is at the very end of your PDF. So you've got the same thing on the publish online. Okay. All right. Who's going to bring me a chocolate martini?
Well,
Questions, anything?
speak now.
Thank you, Eva B.
I'll ask one more if you guys are okay with me hogging the questions. It's Heather.
Go for it.
Hi, Heather.
Hey, so I have questions about hyperlinks and if there are any best practices. So I'm working on a file right now that the original output was a PDF and it was full of hyperlinks. It started as a Word file, obviously. I brought it into InDesign. It kept all the hyperlinks, which was great, to URLs. And then I needed to create a separate version to export to In5. And so I did a save as on the file so I could have my PDF version and then a separate In5 version. When I made that In5 version, all of those hyperlinks then started linking to that other InDesign file instead of being URLs. Is there anything I could have done differently? I think it's related to the shared destinations check marks and
yes, and I have had the same that same issue as well. Have you found the script by Keith Gilbert? that is called remove R. I got to order these guys better. Remove. There it is. So it's called Remove
Okay.
Shared Destinations. It's by Keith Gilbert.
Okay.
And what it does, I'll just run it here and see what happens. Oh, there's none. So it will go through your document and it will remove, so that everybody knows what we're talking about here. If I select anything and I go to my hyperlinks panel and I go to my magic menu and make a new hyperlink, I can make it a URL. I always uncheck shared hyperlink destination. Of course, we always forget. Now, here's why I was explained this way, the shared hyperlink. If you have a bunch of different hyperlinks linking to the same spot, when you make it correctly in the document, they're going to link, like they do this. If you start copying and pasting text to another file, or like you said, save as, the hyperlinks, like they say, well, all three of these go to this, they're going to share it. And then a different one is going to go to this one. It's like a whole jumbled mess. And so that's why that shared hyperlink destination should be unchecked, because we make files with different names and we copy and paste text from one file to the next. So this script, if I turn this on, this script, remove shared hyperlink destinations, all I do is double click on it and it fixed that one hyperlink that I forgot to turn it off.
Wow.
So give a little love to
Will solve the issue. That's all it needs.
No, it may not solve the issue, but try to do that before you save as another document. It might help. I hope. I don't know, but I have had the exact same issue. Okay, but you'll find that
a little that doesn't help a lot. I wish there was a better answer.
I do too, but that's on Keith Gilbert's on his page.
Okay, thank you.
All right, anything else? Good.
Okay, and with that, I think we need to say thank you very much, Lori.
You're welcome. Yay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Lori.
Very good, very good. If people want to reach out to you afterwards, Lori, is that okay? Or
absolutely, yeah. The on the front page is I just use a Gmail address. It's just universal and easy. It's at the front page of the handout.
Okay.
Or, I guess on every other page, it's right up there. All right, thank you.
Okay, very good.
All right, I'll stop sharing.
All right, and I am going to share this one. Share screen. Okay, before we go to the raffles, I want to say we're looking for somebody to handle social media. I've said that before, but this time it looks like we have a few bucks to pay somebody. You probably won't be able to do your mortgage payment with what we're able to pay, but we have a little bit of cash for somebody to handle social media for this group. So send me email or let me know. Okay, Alan, you want to describe the 5-second rule?
The 5-second, well, actually it's a 7-second rule. I have a timer, and when the wheel spins and stops and the flying fickle finger of fate settles on somebody's name, then I start the timer. And if you respond within the 7 seconds, then you're good. If you don't, then it goes to somebody else.
Okay.
It's a cruel world. What can I say?
Before we get rolling, I was asking, I was a late arrival because
I
tied up.
think you're
with
fine. You were in
the-
before 4:30.
You were in before
okay.
4:30. Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was 4 o'clock. Okay.
Okay, I'm putting the links to the raffle prizes again, and everybody's name is here on the wheel. You can see the wheel, right?
We can see the wheel.
Okay. All right. Well, then
Where is that link?
let me first, before we go to raffles, I'm going to let everybody know what the meeting is next month. So what's the hottest topic around these days? What's everybody talking about?
Inflation.
Other than that,
Oh, God.
AI.
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 Oh, boy.
Okay, this is next month. InDesign in an AI world. We've got two people. They're going to be talking about that. And the link to next month's presentation, so you can get more information about that, is here. I just put that in the chat pod. And that's live to register right now. Okay, so here are the prizes, and we'll spin for the first one.
Oh, crap. Where is the link? There it is.
And one other thing before you choose,
Heather.
Wow, first pick.
okay, Heather, but hold on before you choose.
Okay.
I do not have a confirmation from Justin that we're getting in 5. So when I request it, he normally will favor us with a free copy, but I don't have that confirmation yet. So,
Especially since I just did an advertisement for him.
so if you choose that, we may not be able to provide it.
Okay.
But if you're a gambling person, go for it. Well, I mean, go for, if you want it.
Yeah, I subscribe to it now. It would just be I would get it as a credit for future renewals, right? Theoretically.
I don't know, because sometimes when people give us prizes, they're looking for like new customers.
New people, yeah.
Yeah, and
All right.
that doesn't help them. But
I'll go ahead and try the Font Agent Pro.
yeah. Okay, Font Agent Pro.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay, very good. Nellie, are you here?
That's a timeout.
And there is also a mystery prize down there. And if you choose the mystery prize, you don't get to choose something else. The mystery prize last month was a new car. It probably won't be a new car this month. Okay. Myra.
Hi, sorry, I will take the Adobe Illustrator book, please.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, actually, I'm sorry. Can I take that back? Can I get the DTP Tools Cloud InDesign?
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. Judith.
I'm here.
Yeah.
I'll take the Creative Pro magazine.
Creative Pro magazine.
Good choice.
Ginny.
Hi there. You know what? Let's go mystery prize.
Okay, you sure now?
Yes.
All right. Okay, the mystery prize is a notebook from O'Reilly. It's kind of small, so we have a penny there to show you the size. Okay,
Cool, thanks.
all right.
Looks about business card size.
All right, let's go here. Jenny, put your last name as a direct message to me if you want to keep that private in the chat pod so that I can make sure that I find you.
All right, sounds good.
Oh, I forgot to take your name off. Okay, let me see. I can do that down here. And then go back here. Barbara,
Me? Oh my gosh. Wow. Thank you. I'm looking at the InDesign pillow for the reason that the last time I won, which was many, many years ago, I got so much stuff that was fabulous and my kids and grandkids loved it too, but I didn't get an InDesign pillow.
well,
I
there
got
you
some
go.
other pillow, but not InDesign. So
You
this
got
is
one
great.
now. Okay,
Yeah, thank you.
all right. Tyler,
Hello, thank you. I will be that gambling person and do the in5.
okay,
And if it comes in, it comes in.
all right, very good.
So thank you.
What is in 5?
Heidi,
Hello.
hi.
I'll take the Adobe sunglasses.
Hey,
Cool.
Alan, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, good. Got some problems. Can't view what these things are and stuff.
Sharon,
Sharon.
Hi, yes, I'm here and I think I'd like the Illustrator book.
okay,
Thank you, I'm excited.
okay, good, good. Katie,
No, no, it was so close. It was on the line. It's digital, I know.
It's timeout on Katie.
Dang.
oh. I didn't take it out again. Okay. So is everybody here by that ID?
That's an AI.
Affirmative.
Who tried that?
Anyway, that's a timeout.
Jade or Jade?
It's Jade. I'm actually going to pass.
Okay. Jim, I think you're still here. No?
Jim is still here. Jim, speak. You're not even muted.
He doesn't need anything.
Oh, well, okay.
I'm here. Can you not hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you
Oh,
now.
now we can hear you. Yeah.
I'm like, I had it on for, yeah, no, I'll do the SPD Design 48.
What are those things? I can't view what this stuff is.
Oh, well, we'll have to talk about it another time. I have to go with these.
Yep. Thank you.
Might have to talk about it if I link something.
And Doug, there you are. No, I guess you're not. Eleanor.
Eleanor.
Eleanor. Time out.
Violetta.
Hi, I'm here. Can I get the Creative Cloud t-shirt, please?
Okay.
Thank you.
Robert, you still here?
Time up.
Jasper Photo. Did I hear somebody?
Not soon enough.
Thought I heard somebody say that's me or something. Excuse me. Jiho.
Don't see Shio in the list there.
Beverly.
Hey, Ellen. Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, I'll get those artsy Maplethorpe cards. Why not?
Okay, you got it.
Thank you. Okay. Do
They
you
are
need my,
kind of artsy. They're kind of cool.
I can DM you my address if you're gonna pop in the mail.
Okay, we'll do.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
If I got those, I'd send them to Donald Trump.
I would send a lot worse to that man, but never mind. I'll mute myself now.
Dyrene Davis.
Darlene is not on the list anymore.
Gerald.
Cheryl likewise has left the building.
Like Elvis.
Like Elvis.
They left together, I guess.
No, I don't say that.
Oh, that's true. I didn't mean that. Vicky.
No, Vicky has departed.
Richard.
Now, Richard. Hello.
Well, you see him on the list
Yeah.
or something?
Richard's on the list, but he's de-videoed and muted.
Anything
so
on the chat? No, nothing in
Nothing
chat.
in the chat.
Okay.
Striking out.
Dallas.
Hi, I'm here.
Good.
Yay.
Good.
What is SPD Design 47?
Oh, it was in the link. It's a book.
A book?
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
It's the Society of Publication Designers annual. It's pretty sweet.
Oh, all right. Very good. Thank you.
Shannon.
Oh, why? Shannon left early.
Virginia.
No, we don't got Virginia with us either.
Just say, hey, who wants the t-shirt?
Right.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to do that with the Mapplethorpe cards, actually.
Does anyone fit an XXL? Yeah.
That's me. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, I think I want the t-shirt.
You got it.
Go for
Good
it.
choice.
Go for it. Yes. Yes. All right. And with that, we are done.
Thanks, Alan, for another fun meeting. Really
That was
appreciate it.
awesome. That was really
Lori, thanks. That was absolutely
good.
superb, as always.
Thank you all for
We're
listening.
having a senior moment, or was there supposed to be a creative cloud in the raffle?
You're having a senior moment.
Okay.
There will
No
be
worries.
one next month, however, with the AI presentation.
That
Cool.
sounds like a really good one. Really exciting.
Yeah, we're expecting quite a full house next
Yeah.
month.
This was a beautiful presentation. Thanks, Lori.
You're
Yeah,
welcome.
great.
It's
Hope you
really
learned something. And it's nice just to get a little taste of this stuff, because like somebody had commented, now I got to get back into it. And it just gives you that jump start to start adding a little bit of animation to your stuff.